We're live. Chargers Truther here with Chargers season ticket holder Darin Bunch. Thank you for coming on. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to talking about the Chargers. It's the off season. I've been buried in other sports. My job is in golf, so it's nice to talk football as much as possible, even when it's not football season.
Yeah, definitely. I usually make videos like once a week or whatever, but there's really nothing going on. I'd just be scratching at like crumbs or whatever the phrase is, trying to come up with stuff to talk about. But I'm always happy to talk here live or whatever. It doesn't have to be on YouTube, but happy to talk with passionate Chargers fans like myself. I'm not a season ticket holder, but yeah, just happy to have you on. So. My first question to you would be, how did you become a fan?
It's funny. I went to college in San Diego, and which was a long, long time ago. It's so strange when I think about it because I mean, I've been watching the Chargers for 30 years. A lot of the people I talk with on Twitter about the Chargers, weren't even born. So, I watched Billy Joe Tolliver, who we always called Pumpkinhead, and people like that, way back when. And I wasn't always an avid fan. It just so happened that when I moved back to I live in Bakersfield, California, and when I moved back here, I had some other friends who had been into the Chargers over the years and dating all the way back to college. And we all kind of started watching again avidly, not like just kind of peripherally, but we got together, started getting together every Sunday, watching games. We started going down to a few games when they were in San Diego. We would go a couple games. Then when they moved to Carson, we'd go to 3 or 4 games because it was a little bit easier to get there. And then when they moved to SoFi, I surprised these 3 guys and said, look, there's absolutely no reason for us not to have season tickets at this point. It's only a 2-hour drive for us to go down. So we bought season tickets at SoFi, and we go down. And then when we're not there, one of my buddies just outfitted his backyard with a big giant screen TV. And so we go hang out at his house and one of the other guys' houses and watch the away game. So it's been a process over these 30 years, but I'm deeper into it obviously now than I've ever been. A giant Herbert fan, and just happy to be that the team is trying to make some progress because you and I have talked. We both have frustrations, and so many people I talk to on Twitter, who have followed the team for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, are just I feel like we're all pissed off too often. But I understand the frustration because you want your team to be better, and they should have been better all this time. So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I got to where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool that you are, you're not in necessarily. Is Bakerfield SoCal? That's kind of like Central Valley,
It's
right?
just over the mountain. It's the southern end of the Central Valley. So
Okay.
we got to go over the Grapevine to get down there.
Yeah.
But we can basically from my house to the stadium on a Sunday morning takes us a little under 2 hours.
hmm
So
Yeah. No, well, that's cool. You're not necessarily in the, LA or San Diego or whatever, but you got some Chargers fans that you hang out with and you spend time watching the game. For me, I'm up here in San Jose, and I've been here my whole life pretty much. And I became a Chargers fan when I was young, and I have really never known any other Chargers fans here that I spend time with. All my friends are 49ers fans pretty much, and I don't know. It's kind of, I see the 49ers winning and being so good. They've had some bad times definitely over our my lifetime or whatever, but now they just have seemed like such a good team that they keep going to the Super Bowl. They keep making the playoffs and being so dominant, and it just like I watched that team also, just peripherally, and that's the kind of team I identify with as conducive to success, and that's the exact pretty much team I want the Chargers to be. So it's just like after you're watch the Chargers for so long, just not putting it together with all these great pieces, it's just like, yeah, it's definitely frustrating. And I know that I'm incredibly annoying on on Twitter or whatever, but you know what? oh man, in some weird way, I feel like I'm doing the team a favor by being annoying and being very annoying and trying to push for better, and in a way that's also very passionate. So I don't know
Sure.
how you guys
You're
perceive me, but
definitely passionate. There's no doubt about that. I'm never gonna say you're not passionate. It's
yeah.
funny you talk about the 49ers too, because my kind of getting more into football dated way back. I was in the newspaper business for a long time before I got out and got in the golf business. And so when I early on, I worked for a paper in Central California. And one of the perks of working there was that we got to send reporters to 49ers and Raiders games, because that
Mhm.
was kind of our, we were on the periphery of the Bay Area. And so I got to cover the 49ers and the Raiders, for a handful of games. Got to be in the locker rooms, got to interview players.
Nice.
I remember interviewing Ken Norton Jr., and so it was, that's where I really kind of started to dive in and understand the game better, as opposed to when I was a kid and just watching people throw it around the field.
Hmm.
So I have some 49ers ties way back then, even though they were never really my team, so to speak.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. We're all, I'm talking to people all the time, and about the frustrations, and I think one of the things that you and I talk about, and there's a couple other guys on there, is there's so much time in the season to be frustrated, when things go bad,
Yeah.
that I try to not be frustrated this time of year. I mean, you pointed out something today that you've said before. I noticed that on Twitter, where you're like, I need to see it to believe it. And I get that. But, you know, I- you learn after 30 years, 40 years of watching sports that, uh, let that time come to be frustrated. And right now, we're as hopeful as we've probably ever been.
Yeah.
You got everything you wanted in Telesco leaving,
I
you
mean,
know?
that was the
So,
check.
it's like, we, why not be excited about it right now and just be like, okay, let's see where this goes. And, if we go, I hate to say this, knock on wood, but if we go 1-5 to start the season or something like that, then we're all going to have plenty to complain about at
Yeah.
that point. But I feel like the team has never been in a better spot, at least in the last, you know 5-10 years,
Yeah.
of, kind of being ready for the season. It may not all work out, but we're definitely in a hopeful spot. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what the team becomes now moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with all of that. Definitely doesn't really help to be a downer in the off season. But at this point, I'm just playing the villain, and I'm playing the role. And I know that nobody likes it, but too bad, pretty much. So I don't know. But no, I think that after we have so much to be excited about right now with Jim Harbaugh and these new guys, because we have been under Tom Telesco for 11 years, and that's a long time. That's almost half of my life. Almost it's about half of my Chargers life or whatever. So yeah, to go to finally move on after that's like being in a horrible marriage, a miserable marriage for being for so long, and then you finally fall in love again. You're like all excited. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. That I would imagine. Not that I've never been married or anything, but that's kind of
I get that.
yeah, it's something to finally move on and be excited about. But at the same time, we still have to see it to believe it, of course. But and even if we do go 1-5 and whatever we go whatever 5-12 again, I think we should do better than 5-12. But if we still have a bad season, it'll be okay. It's the first season, right? Then maybe okay, it's the second season. Okay, then. But you have 11 years, Tom Telesco. You have 11. We got to pick it up before too long. But again, yeah, we are very excited for this season. I think this season might be the most excited fans have been or whatever in a long time. I don't know. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously me and my buddies are all excited. Everybody I talk to, you do have the people who are like, well, we still haven't done this, or we still haven't done this, or or we took Joe Alton when we should have, taken Neighbors, or all these different things. And I get all that, but if you're one of these people, if you believe in the process, I hate really that phrase ever since the 76ers made it trust the process. But if you do, then you got to kind of bite the bullet on this and say, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They do it for a reason. And if we all knew better, we'd probably be doing that. You and I wouldn't be talking on YouTube
Yeah.
today. We'd be doing something, at a higher level. So that doesn't mean that you can't be critical. And so I think one of the things that I like to talk about is that, and you and I get into this, and that I don't, I like the debate. I like talking about them. I think everybody has an opinion. Um, and I like to hear all those opinions. I may not agree with people, you and I have gone back and forth on Melvin Gordon, so there's plenty of things that you can have a conversation. What makes me sad sometimes when I look out and I'm reading Twitter or whatever, and I see people just going at each other kind of disrespectfully, because I think everybody who does this, and look, I got to applaud you. I do a podcast. It's not video, thankfully, because I still don't believe anybody wants to see my face. But we've done like 150 of them in the golf space, and it's a lot of work. And so anybody who like puts their butt on the line and says, okay, I'm gonna try to do a podcast, there's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of time. And I think anybody in all these different voices that we have, I try to respect all those people, because everybody comes from a different point of view. Everybody's putting in the work. We're all just fans trying to navigate, what's next, and still look at the past and try to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of mistakes. I've been I was one of the guys that said don't fire Anthony Lynn. So there's plenty of mistakes out there to be made.
No, I mean, dang, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that. I would even say that Anthony Lynn was a pretty good coach. I mean, he took us to 12-4 or whatever like that. I don't, that's a whole conversation in itself. And yeah, I've definitely made mistakes too. We all have. Maybe this entire thing is a mistake on my part, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna ride it out all the way till the end. And
I don't think by the way, I don't think it's a mistake. I like it. I like that you get out there and you try to present something different.
yeah,
The only issue I've ever had with it is I kind of feel like you use that phrase mainstreamers as kind of a dirty word.
yeah,
And I don't see the fan base and all the podcasts and everyone as monolithic. I don't see us as all one voice and you're like fighting against us all. I see you as a critical voice in a sea of voices, and everybody is trying to manage this and try to bring their own ideas. And then that's where we get in and we mix it up and we say, I don't necessarily agree with you on this, I don't necessarily agree with you on this. But it's funny because there's people, some people have played football, some people haven't played football, some people have been in the media, some people haven't.
mhm,
There's all these different people, and I think that's what makes the fan base great. Even you have the brisket broads, and you have the higher end podcasts who've been embraced by the team, and they've got people like you who are kind of doing their own thing out here. And I think that's great for the fan base overall. And I just like to see I like to see us more in discussion and not downplaying kind of the work that other people do, because it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work to commit to analyzing a team and dedicating your time to it. And
yeah,
we're going to spend probably an hour here on a Tuesday night. We could be
yep,
doing other things, but
yep.
we want to talk about the Chargers, so why not?
Yeah, definitely. And that's very true. I'm grateful that the team has fans. It really does have fans. Like whoever says the Chargers don't have fans, it's just. I mean,
That was
I
it.
don't. I mean, I don't know how many fans, obviously, the Cowboys or the Raiders or these giant teams have, but Chargers definitely have fans, and that's all good and that's great. But I mean, I'm an obsessive fan. Like I have problems, I really do. And I grew up playing football. You know, I might not have played college or whatever, but I really love the game. And you know, I've given it up obviously now that I'm older. I finished high school, whatever. I didn't pursue it any further than that, but um, I can just notice things when I watch the game, and I'm sure you can too, and all these other people. When the team is not physical, when it's not big, it's not strong, it's not running the ball, it doesn't have lacks physicality, it's not going to be good, you know, and it's just so obvious. And I feel like under Tom Telesco, it just never really had that you know aspect to it, except under Anthony Lynn when you know in that maybe 1 or 2 years when they were really actually hitting on all cylinders, looking good. Um, and then you know I just it will go back to Melvin Gordon because Melvin Gordon, you know, was a big dude. He was a strong dude, and he did help us run the ball better. And that's like everything I really want. So when we let him go, I was just like, I don't think that's the right move. And maybe I'll let you respond to it, but like we should be trying to be physical. We should be trying to run the ball, you know, not that's going backwards now, you know. I mean, what do you think on that?
I totally agree with that. I totally
Yeah.
agree that we got away from that, and some of that was personnel wise. I think the two things that I try to do on Twitter are, I don't see any of this in black and white, and I feel like Twitter is never a place where we accept context and we look at the context. So, like, I don't think Telesco was horrible. I don't think he was great. He's somewhere in that spectrum. You think he's much farther to the horrible end of that spectrum.
Yeah, dude.
I think he was probably in the middle, because I can find with almost any player, coach, anything, I can find stuff that they did that I think, hey, this was really good for the team. And I can find stuff for even the best of players. I'm a Warriors fan. I can be critical of Steph Curry. I'm a Chargers fan. I can be critical of Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
They can always be better about things. So it's somewhere in that middle ground. And so the one thing that I try to point out, and I've tried to point out, I tried to point it out with Anthony Lynn when I was, you know, kind of standing up for the fact that we should give him one more year. I did this with Telesco and with Staley, because I don't think everything was their fault. Although I will say this about Staley and having Harbaugh now, I think Harbaugh will outcoach people. I think Brandon Staley wanted to outsmart people. And so I think that's kind of one of those things. But even with those two guys, I think they were dealt some bad circumstances. Now, you and I have
Yeah.
argued that, yeah, Corey Linsley went out last year and nobody could have really predicted that. But we weren't prepared from a roster building standpoint to withstand that. And so that was Telesco's failing. But at the same time, some things, like, we might not have Herbert if it weren't for Telesco, because Telesco had to make a hard decision. I mean, Philip Rivers is probably the most popular player in the franchise history when you look back,
Yeah.
and they had to let him go to be able to be able to get Herbert and make all that work. And so, you know, I don't hate on players, and I try not to be too crazy high on players. Um, but I totally agree with you that we got away from something, and now we're at this point where it's definitely going to come back. Like, you're going to find out if the trenches are where it is, because uh, uh, Harbaugh and Ortiz are going to just, you know, everything they do is going to start there. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to start in the trenches, and we're going to find out whether that's for real or not. And you know, it's like with anything. There's going to be three outcomes at the end of the season. One of three outcomes at the end of the season. We're either going to be right about something, we're either going to be wrong about something, or there's just not going to be enough data for us to make a decision of whether we were right or wrong.
Yeah.
Those are the only three outcomes, and I think we're going to find out. And I'm excited about finding out. I think that's cool, because you're right. We didn't run the ball, and now I'm like not only excited about the line, you know, because I didn't have an opinion really of what we should do at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 6? 5?
Yeah. 5.
Where did we pick? We picked at
5.
5.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got too many fantasy football drafts in my mind too, where I've got numbers all jumbled up. But
No worries.
I didn't have an opinion of which way we should go necessarily, but I love the idea of alt, and I love the idea of enforcing reinforcing the line
Mhm.
and doing more. Certainly without Lindsley, we have to do that. And so now I'm excited not only about the two guys we brought in from the Ravens for running,
Yeah,
but Kamani as well. Because who knows? That guy could be he could be the next Tomlinson. You don't
could
know.
be. You don't know.
As long
Yeah,
as we're doing it, if we do everything else right and put him in a position to succeed, because I think you're right, and we've all been talking about we didn't Staley Telesco didn't put enough people in a position to succeed, and certainly weren't able to withstand injuries, and then it just all unraveled from there and was just bad.
yeah. No, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. All that is. I agree with pretty much all of that. Again, just to finish up the Telesco part, it's just like when you go from Melvin Gordon, big dude, to a small Austin Eckler as the running back one, it just does not make sense. And you're not
sure.
investing in there. And year after year, it was like 4 years in a row, we just cruised on by. It's like, dude, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're so, even I can, it's obvious. It was so obvious to me. I had to make this account actually. And then this is going to go back to the mainstreamer thing, which is, I really just didn't see the mainstreamers putting that much criticism on Tom Telesco that I think he really needed. You needed to have that. I thought that they were more or less accepting the status quo. Maybe not all of them. It's not monolithic. I understand, but I saw that the niche or the whatever the corner in the market for where I felt I should come in and be the evil guy that really, really tears him up.
Yeah.
And it and I feel like everything has proved me right through the Telesco era. Now we're entering a different era where now we're kind of going back to the things I wanted to do. I mean, I don't want to, get too arrogant or whatever, but now it's like, all right, now I my role in this market is kind of diminishing a little bit, so what do I do now? But I'm happy. I am very happy for what has been going on. I would have gotten a bigger running back. Maybe we'll do that next season, but I like the moves that we've made. I like the Joe Alt. But again, it's not just that one first pick. I always said it's the whole draft, it's the whole offseason, it's the whole roster. And yeah, I think it's good now, but I still have a role to play. I know I'm mean. I get into it with some of the mainstreamers. Um,
I still don't know who the mainstreamers are. I can't figure. I assume I know who they are, but I still don't. I still don't understand
yeah,
that whole construct. I guess it is.
it's pretty
And
much just the most popular speakers.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
fair enough. I
yeah,
mean, I because I don't see those people as being. I guess everyone I watch and talk to and listen to has such a varied, wide opinion. I think to me that's the key. And like even if you took somebody like Stephen Hagler, guilty as charged. I mean, he was a lineman, so he like is very much in the same as you, wants to be in the trenches and wants to be those things. And so I don't see the us against the world mentality. I guess I think is it amuses me. I guess is what I'll say
yeah,
on it. I understand why you do it. Don't get me wrong. I get that every story needs a villain, and you want to be the villain, or the like. When I was growing up, there was wrestling,
yeah.
and there was always the heel, as they called him, in the wrestling world. And I get that, and so I take it with a grain of salt. Even though I call you out on it occasionally when it's the middle of the night and we're yapping it up at 2 or 3 in the morning, which I still can't understand why. I know why I'm up at 3 in the morning, but still can't figure out why you are.
Yeah. Well, some things are best left unsaid. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I'm a night owl. you won't really see me tweeting at 7 a.m. too often. Um, but yeah, pretty much, yeah, I'm playing a role. It's a character. It's nothing personal. But again, when I'm talking about these mainstreamers, one thing I think that I really have to hold on to is that I cannot be doing this for views and money. I mean, I am
Sure.
kind of like I would I it, you know I'm trying to appeal to the fans, but I'm not gonna let that change my message in the slightest. I have to stick to what I really feel. And if that pisses people off, then good. And that's kind of the way I've been doing it. And I see the mainstreamers as a little bit like people pleasing. They maybe pander a little bit, maybe not though. What do I know? But
Right.
maybe I'm envisioning this thing that's not entirely true, but it is. I think there is truth to it, and
I I think
yeah,
some of it, I think you build some of it into this
yeah,
character.
yeah,
Like we were talking about on the money side. And I made the point that nobody makes money. And the more I thought about that later on, there are people who charge money. And that's not really what I was trying to say, because a handful of these people have Patreons and all that kind of thing. And so it does cost you a little bit extra to get, extra content or whatever. I guess my point was nobody's making a living at this. I mean, we're all just fans. Most of the people who I see have other podcasts and everything. It's a second outlet for them. They all have real jobs that they're
hmm
trying to, that is how they make a living and how they pay the bills. I'm probably the only guy who has, doesn't have a real job. Because all I do is play on social media for my job, but in the golf space. But so it's like I'm not entirely sure that most of those people, I think they're just doing it because they're passionate and they want to analyze the team and they want to find a way to be a part of the team, in a
yeah,
way, just like you are. I don't think, at least most of the people I follow and talk to, I don't feel like views or money are driving their opinions. And I also don't feel like they are holding back on their views, because either the team or something might happen. Like there's not a lot of them don't have sponsors, so it's not like they have to worry about that. So, and I've been in that position before where, you've got sponsors for a podcast or radio show or something like that. You got to kind of watch what you say. I just don't feel like that's the case in this. So anyway, but that doesn't stop you, from being able to get your views out there and have us have, like I said at the beginning of this, a vigorous debate about, what makes sense, and in the end, we're going to find out who's right.
yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it really goes back. It'll always fall back into the role that I'm playing. Which again, I truly believe that it should be played. Maybe not as intensely as I do it, but you know what? I'm really letting my true diehard passion for this team um, be itself. And if we succeed and if we start winning now, I will change my tune. I really will.
yeah,
This comes out of frustration, and I think that I mean, it's not that I've been successful. I've been somewhat no, like people, my message gets out there through this craziness that I spew out. It's I mean,
sure.
whatever you want to call it, but I think it's um, some people get the frustration, and I kind of become the most frustrated or whatever fan, and yeah, so there's that,
I
and I'm
think just being on this podcast and hearing you admit it's a character lets me know, and I think would let other people know when they watch it, that you're not just kind of a psychopath.
yeah,
you know, that you're not just, kind of this. I, I don't know.
yeah,
You could this egotistical. It's me against the world and
yeah,
everything. I get it as a character. I don't have a problem with that. And like I said, I like the points you're making. Otherwise, I wouldn't have engaged with you in the first place.
yeah,
I certainly wouldn't be on here talking with you if I felt like it was just all just just a pain. I would let's have a conversation. That's why when you mentioned this, I was like, sure, loud. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Chargers.
Yeah, I know. And I'm a nice person. I'm outgoing. I but again, I am a diehard crazy Chargers fan, and yes, this is a character, but at the same time, I really do kind of believe in what I do. I really do. This might be the craziest thing that my craziest opinion that no one agrees with, but I really do think that I can, in some small way, help influence the team by speaking to the fans, getting my message out there, and trying to get people behind it, and
Sure,
being loud, being really loud. Because if you get enough people to be loud about things, people, even the president of the United States will hears the protesters. How can you ignore that? So
yeah, sure enough.
and if I don't, then at least I tried, at least
Yeah,
I tried. So that's kind of what
I
I'm
get
doing
that.
here. Yeah.
My craziest opinion, maybe not. I don't know if it's crazy, but it's the one thing that I kind of harp on. You mentioned it earlier, the idea of rebuilding.
Mhm.
And this was one of the things I was thinking about. What do I want to talk about on this if we're talking about it? I hate the idea of rebuilding
Yeah.
because I invest a lot of money every season
Yeah.
in going to games, and to have the last few seasons basically be dead. And we made the playoffs the year before, so the final games mattered, but it's just like when this season was torture
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not made of money. I do okay, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of money on going to Chargers games and the travel and the seats and the SSL originally and that kind of thing. And so I don't want everything to be a rebuild. I mean, I think we're reloading. That's what I think about. And the other thing is, I don't think these two guys in Harbaugh and Ortiz came into this thinking, well, we'll have a 2 or 3 year process here.
Yeah.
They can't, after the fiasco that was, and the Spanos family the same way is not going to is not going to accept it just being the way it was. So these guys have got to do something. They got to win. They got to, there's got to be a winning season at the end of this. And I think they can do that.
Mhm.
But it's the people who are like, oh, this year, it's no big deal. It's next year and the year after it will matter. I'm like, well, this year matters to me.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I agree. I don't think that this should be a rebuilding. Although Tom Telesco is so, excuse my language, he is so fucking horrible. He was so fucking bad. He's like I really don't like to say the word, but I really think I hate that guy because he wasted so long of our time. He's wasted. If it was like 4 years, 5 years, and then he got fired, all right, fine, whatever. But like 11 years, oh, dude, fuck you, dude.
I
So,
think I think too with him.
yeah.
We go back to Anthony Lynn. I think Anthony Lynn really got sabotaged by Telesco
Oh
on the special
yeah.
team side. When you look at how god awful that special teams program was, and obviously now they turned it around with Ficken, but there it was that he let so many players walk who were kind of the heart and soul of special teams,
Melvin
and
Gordon.
and then didn't replace them at all.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then it's just he just set him up to fail.
Yes.
And so that was the bigger thing. If special teams have been halfway decent under Anthony Lynn, he probably wins more games, and he probably still would have been the coach.
Yeah, and to go before we go like too deep down that rabbit hole, like remember when we let go of Josh Lambo for Young Ho Koo, and then he missed all those kicks and pretty much ruined our season right in the beginning. I don't know if you remember that. I'm sure you
I
do.
I was there. I was there for a handful of those
And
games.
it's like,
Yeah,
what the like Josh Lambo was good. Like, what the hell are you doing, you
yeah.
dumbass?
But in classic Chargers fashion, then Koo goes somewhere
Yeah, I
else and
know.
becomes you
Pretty
know
good.
becomes a pretty good kicker. So
Yeah,
I just you
yeah.
never can tell, and it's just, and some of that's why I'm not always a huge fan of the turnover, because I feel like when you keep firing coaches, that's what the bad franchises do.
Yeah.
So like even it wasn't until the Raiders game for me this year that I was like, okay, Staley's got to go. Before that, I was like, man, you got to give him one more try. You got to let him have some
Yeah.
guys who are healthy, and then once we realized he basically lost the locker room in that Raiders fiasco, it was like, all right, well, hopefully we get somebody, and hopefully it's Harbaugh in my mind at that time, and now we have a coach that maybe hopefully will do this for the next 5 to 8 to 10 years and have some stability in the program, because
Yeah.
that's what we need. I mean, it's way too much turnover. And I keep going back. I wasn't a Norv Turner fan. I wasn't a McCoy fan. I liked Lynn, but he had his faults too. I never thought I thought Shane Steichen was way overmatched as an offensive coordinator when he was with us. And he's now proven that wrong and gone on to be a head coach. But it's just so many things just get out of whack, and it feels like the roller coaster just keeps going,
Yeah.
and we don't know where it's ending. And at least now I feel like the roller coaster's on the way. We're doing that slow chug 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 back up to the top here,
Mhm.
and then the season's going to start and it's going to release, and we're going to be on a ride, and I hope it's a good one.
Yeah. No doubt. And again, one thing, main problem again I had with the mainstreamers is that every other word out of their mouth was Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley this, Brandon Staley that. It's like like Tom Telesco, bro, like talk about him a little more often. Like no
Yeah.
one really was mentioning him. It's like, dude, he had Mike McCoy, he had Anthony Lynn, he had Brandon Staley. It's the same shit, dude. Like you can't, you got to try and address the root causes. And to go back to what we were originally talking about, the rebuild, it's like, yeah, I don't think that we're going to be a bad team. I think we'll be a good team. We have Justin Herbert. If you just build the complete team with a great quarterback like Herbert, do things right, you will be a good team, But again, after Tom Telesco, there's so much to fix and he left us with such a poor roster. He really did, I think. But you saw we're letting guys go, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Not saying that's the right or wrong decision, but the money was really caught up. It's really like constipated. It felt like, the money, the
Well,
cap
those
space.
guys pushed Staley and Telesco pushed all their chips in.
Yeah.
Because they knew last year was a year that they had to do something, and when it all unraveled, they just we were left holding the bag.
Yeah.
I do think about the rebuild though, and another point of how Harbaugh and Ortiz don't see it as a rebuild as much as a reload. If it were a true rebuild, if they only cared about years 2 and 3, they wouldn't have figured out things out with Khalil and with Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
They would have moved on from them as well.
Yeah.
So I think they see that this team can win, and they're going to do everything they can to make them win. Let me ask you a question,
Mhm.
because it's not your core is in the trenches. I feel like what they did in the draft with multiple wide receivers was important, and now we brought in free agents as well. Um, I'm kind of interested in this whole free for all Hunger Games that's going to go on in the preseason to try to figure out who's going to emerge as the
Yeah.
wide receivers that Justin's going to throw to. Do you got any insight into that?
Well, I mean, like I usually say, gotta see it to believe it. I mean,
Sure.
I don't have any guesses. Brendan Rice looked good. Johnson, who knows? You never really know until they put the pads on and start playing the games. We're just all waiting for that. But bigger than the receiver, I'm just glad how there seems to be competition at a lot of different positions. Running back now, even the last running back spot, Spiller versus Vidal. Receiver definitely has some guys fighting for that last spot. This offensive lineman, Jamari Salyer versus Pipkins. I made this a video last. My last video was about the position battles, but if we're talking just about receiver, I mean, I think we got some potential there. Johnston is gonna be asked to step up big, but maybe he won't. A
Right.
lot of a lot of these Telesco guys are now gonna be, really in question now. There's no more riding the bench. There's no more, cruising through. It's like, nah, dude, like there's someone behind you that really needs to be able to take your position. And if you can't do it, then you need to just go get a new job. You need to, go get the hell out of here pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. There needs to be competition. It's important. If I was to guess the receivers, yeah, it would be Palmer, Johnston, McConkey. Then we got Chark, and then the last one. Maybe we keep both of the guys. If I'm not forgetting one, Johnson and Rice. Maybe they both make it. I feel like I'm forgetting someone else, but
Who's
yeah.
the other guy that got picked just ahead of Rice, right?
I don't
I don't know. I blanked out as well.
know the
But yeah,
Michigan
I mean,
receiver, but yeah,
I think it's funny with, especially with Quentin, is just that people. I love his skill set, and I get it. That couldn't catch the ball, which is a problem in the NFL.
yeah,
But I also think he wasn't used right. Like if we're going to say that Staley was a bad coach, then we have to allow for the fact that maybe a good coach will find something. But you're right; he's under the heat lamp. It's not
yeah.
there's not a long runway for Quentin Johnson. He's going to have to prove it. Otherwise, he's going to end up on somebody else's team or maybe out of the league.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, hopefully, yeah, with a better front office, even GM, head coach for sure, coordinators, these guys should know how to best use what they have, and they have Quentin Johnson, so how can they best use the guy? Of course, if he can't catch the bottle, then there's really nothing you could do about that. But
Right.
if they can make use with his skill sets, then he still is a great athlete. If he
Yeah.
gets the ball in his hands, I'm sure he's can make stuff happen. He was a first round pick for a reason. So yeah, it'll be exciting. I'm just glad that there were so many guys under Tom Telesco that just cruised on the bench. Like JT Woods, McKitty, and all these other dudes, Isaiah Spiller even, and
Yeah.
and now hopefully not Quentin Johnson. They're gonna have to trim the fat or whatever, find out who can be muscle and who can and be the
What's funny
fat to be
about
trimmed.
what's funny about Spiller is that, like at training camp last year, we were watching the live scrimmage, and he was made a couple plays, and then it was just like, well, because he doesn't play special teams, he can't even get on the roster, and it's an interesting, you and I say to you a lot, it's a puzzle. Everything about a football team is a puzzle
Yeah,
that you got to put the pieces together. And he was just a piece that didn't fit, and
yeah,
I don't see him making the team. Certainly, he's not going to make the team ahead of Kamani. So
maybe.
because they're not going to they drafted him for a reason.
Yeah,
So, and he's their guy. So I just it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together. In the fall, and I have no idea what the starting team will look like
yeah,
in week one, and I kind of like it that way. I think it'll be a discovery process for all of us.
yeah. And like what you said, how you saw Spiller making good plays in the camps or whatever the off season. But in the games, he never really showed me anything. He never
No,
really, and he got his touches. He didn't get a lot, but when he did, just like when Keenan Allen first came in, you saw that he was a great player right off the bat. You're like, oh, this kid is good, and that's what good players usually do. And maybe, yeah, maybe it was a bad environment to be in. So Spiller and all these other guys are going to get a fresh shot. Everyone's going to get a fresh shot, to really compete and all that. But again, we got to see it to believe it. That's why I'm not really. It's really hard to make predictions. I can make flimsy predictions. Oh, I think this is going to be the roster, whatever. But until I really see them playing, especially in the preseason, it's really anybody's game or whatever, whatever anybody's word.
we usually
So
we usually skip all but one. I can't remember. Do we have two home preseason games this year?
I'm not too sure.
I can't remember, but like last year we only went to one. I can't remember if it was the only one or if there was another one, but but I'll be more interested in preseason this year than I've ever been,
Yeah,
because it's going to be fun to see those other guys down lower, and see who fights it out, and what happens.
I always watched every preseason game for sure. I watched like every play of the preseason. And yeah, it's just interesting because every once in a while you do see a guy flash, a later round guy, like who showed that he was a good player was Jamari Salyer actually in the preseason. I noticed and I was like,
Right.
oh, this dude can play. I commented on it in the preseason, and then he ended up having to play left tackle. He played pretty well at left tackle for
Yeah.
us, and now he's a full time starter. But again, it's football is incredibly competitive. It's incredibly hard. It's not easy for late round picks, undrafted guys to become something. Most of them don't become anything, unfortunately. So just got to use the old eye test. I always say the only thing you really need is the eye test.
Yep.
Don't show me all these stats. Just I can just use my eyes and usually
What
tell.
One of the players I'm interested in, and it's because we heard so much about him last year in the foreign program, the international program.
Mm.
Is it Okoye? Is that
Yeah,
his name?
the D tackle.
Yeah, and I don't hear anything about him this year, although I see him listed, and I'm just curious what another year here for somebody that new to the game, what it might mean. Because from a physicality standpoint, he when he got a few minutes, in the preseason last year, it seemed like, he was a guy who could do some things. So he's another guy I'm gonna kind of watch out for in the preseason and hope to see a little bit more. I don't know
Yeah.
if we're going to actually go to training camp this year. We went last year, but I don't know. I might talk people with the new facility. I might talk some friends into going.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to LA for the week of 4th of July. I don't know if anything's going on with the team. Probably nothing's going on over there. But if they're having a camp that's open to the fans, they probably not. But I would go. I'd like to see the facility or whatnot. I
Yeah,
do.
facility looks awesome. The new
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I saw the pictures. It does look pretty awesome. I usually try to go to at least one game a year, and the Chargers usually play their last preseason game at the 49ers stadium, so I always go to that game. Um, but yeah, I usually try to go to one game per season, come down to LA. But the last game I went to was the freaking Lions game. You remember the Lions game?
I saw you comment on that
Dude,
Montgomery touchdown run.
Dude, I was so pissed at that game. Actually, the whole time they were running it down our throats. They were dominating us. I'm
Yeah,
like, Jesus, dude, this is freaking pathetic, dude. And then they ran that 90 or 80-yard touchdown right in front of my face. Like they scored right. I had pretty good seats too. Scored right here. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
yeah.
so, but again, all of it emanated or manifested the firing of Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley. I'm not really too don't really care too much about him to be honest, but so yeah, I'll be excited to go to another game this season. I'll see what I can work out. So
Well, let me know when you're coming down.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, man. Well, a lot of stuff we talked about. I don't know if you want to go over a few more questions. We got about I don't know another 12 minutes or so.
What's it
Um,
run? It runs live an hour. Is that?
I mean, we can go over, but usually I keep it to an hour. You don't want to.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, an hour I think is a good time.
What other questions did you have for me on your thing there?
I have a few which maybe you can answer somewhat quickly because I got about like 8. All right, so first one, what is your earliest memory as a fan?
I don't know that I have that. It's been
Okay,
so long,
that's
you
fine.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, like I said, I mean, watching Tolliver was funny.
Hmm.
That was just because the Chargers weren't anything then, and but being in the stadium, being in San Diego, and just it was the whole thing that now I think about how, the everything that we do at SoFi and how big and grand and crazy the stadium is and everything, and
Yeah.
how it was just so low key when I was in college that it almost doesn't register on the scale.
Yeah.
Um, I was in the newspaper business though when they went to the Super Bowl. And then that was like right around the time that I was actually going and covering the 49ers some. So it was cool, that part of it, to be on a newspaper crew that was, doing big stories and big sports pages and front pages about the Super Bowl with the Chargers in it was super cool.
Yeah, that must have been it must be super fun and cool to be doing all that. My next question, what is the best moment you've had as a Chargers fan?
God, there's been a lot of them. The best one is probably the Mike Williams, was it a 2-point conversion to beat the Chiefs?
Yeah,
And we were watching that at a friend's house, and um, it was
that was a great game.
my buddy dresses like Buddy the Elf every once in a while, and we've been to games where he's dressed like Buddy the Elf, but like he was there, and somebody filmed us as it happened, and we were all going crazy in this living room, dancing around, and then we put the video online, and people were like, "Why is there an elf jumping around?" But that's like the moment that we all harken back to. That was like, anytime we need a score or something like that, we're like, we should run the Mike Williams play,
Yeah,
and so that's probably the one thing that jumps out at me.
yeah.
I've been in a lot of cool shootouts too. The Steelers shootout, which I think was a Monday Night
Oh, yeah,
Football game,
yeah,
the Browns shootout. Those are games are just phenomenal in terms of just being in the stadium
yeah,
and the electricity. So,
yeah, definitely. What is the worst moment?
oh, we're all saying the playoff game, right? I mean, the Jags game is the worst thing ever. We were watching it at a friend's house, and we were at the top. We're on the top of the world at halftime.
Yeah,
Asante's doing his thing, and everybody's happy. And by somewhere in the fourth quarter, I just looked at everyone and I said, "This is not going to go our way. It's just not
yeah.
going to end." I've seen this. To quote Brandon Staley, I've seen this movie.
Yeah. No,
So
I remember being up at halftime and my friends were celebrating for me. They're not even Chargers fans. I'm like, nah, you
you're
guys,
like,
like
no,
you need to
yeah,
slow down. Like
yep,
it's not over till it's really over. And I was nervous the whole dang game, even up 27-0. I've like you said, I've seen this movie so many
yep.
times and it was so sickening. And then we lost and then all my friends were there and I'm like, I'm just have to eat it. I'm just like, yep, like that
It's the wor-
sucks. Dude.
it's the
Yeah,
worst, man. Hey, I will
yeah.
say one other cool highlight though is um, I'm in the golf business, and I got to shoot photography at a celebrity golf event
Wow.
a number of years ago, and I got to follow around LaDainian Tomlinson while he played golf,
Damn,
which was a pretty
nice.
cool, pretty cool day too, just to kind of watch him interact with people and
Yeah.
and just he was a super cool guy on that day, so anyway, that was just kind of a non on the field Chargers moment.
Oh yeah, that's a great moment. I've never actually met any Chargers players, I don't think.
Really.
No, I'm not from SoCal, but yeah, I don't think I have. I would
We
love to
don't
though.
we don't have obviously Eric Kendricks isn't on the team now, but my wife and her two sisters come, and they steal my friends' tickets for one game a year,
Hmm.
and we stay at the Westdrift Hotel in Manhattan Beach for the night before that game, and it's actually the hotel where the Chargers stay.
Mm.
And so we ran into Eric Kendricks in the hallway
Wow.
this last year. I can't remember which game we went to, and my sister-in-law, who is single, actually hit on him. So that was a funny exchange in the hallway. So,
Dang. Wow. Hopefully that'll work
but
out for
anybody
her.
out there, if you're coming to LA, like you, if you're coming to LA and you can afford to stay at the West Drift, the night before it's just filled with Chargers players. On this last year, I met Derwin,
Really?
um, Dean Leonard. Met a couple other guys. So Aloy Gilman.
Damn.
So yeah, I never run into Justin yet,
No.
unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe they
So
got him in the VIP. I don't think
probably.
I don't know if he would do it, but yeah, he's a pretty big guy. Maybe he needs an extra big bed. All right. So then, let's see. Let's see. We got about 5 more minutes. I don't mean to keep the track of the time, but because I
All
have a
right,
few
man.
questions, I might skip some of them. But who is your favorite player of all time, and then your least favorite? Or it doesn't have to be a player, because my least favorite would be Tom Telesco.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I hated Norv Turner.
Okay.
I felt like he never ever properly managed Ryan Matthews, who was one of my favorite players. He's
Yeah.
from up here
Mhm.
in the Bakersfield area, so
Yeah.
and he went to Fresno State. My dad's a huge Fresno State fan, so
I loved Ryan
you know,
Matthews too. I really
yeah,
liked him.
I'd always followed him. I mean, Philip's got to be my favorite player. He's
Mhm. Yeah.
just everything about him. Just he didn't care, what people thought, and he wasn't afraid to mix it up. He was always talking smack,
Yeah.
so just he would come to the press conference wearing those bolo ties,
Yeah.
and we literally all got bolo ties and would wear them to games and stuff, just
Nice.
as kind of our homage to Philip Rivers.
Yeah.
One of my friends, his nickname is Bolo because of that. So anyway, I guess that answers that.
Yeah. No, I would say Philip Rivers is my favorite player too, just because he has leadership and his passion. And one thing that I think doesn't get mentioned enough is that he never missed a game. He
Oh,
never
it's
missed a
crazy.
game. Like, that's a true leader. And even when he tore his ACL, but
Yeah, playing
also,
through injury, just unbelievable.
yeah, just such a leader and a role model, But also, I love, of course, I love LaDainian Tomlinson, who actually inspired me to even start playing football. He actually inspired me to become a Chargers fan. I became a fan after the record-breaking 2006 season, or during that season, and then that was it for me. Um,
Nice.
so, all right, what have you learned being a Chargers fan?
What have I learned?
Yeah,
That you got to be patient, man.
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that that you can't. And I mean, if you watched me watch a game, especially live, in the stadium, I'm, I'm not a guy. I mean, I'll cheer with everybody else, but like you mentioned, I don't ever. It's never over till it's over.
yeah,
And there are times that I sit there just doing this, just like, okay, let's just get through this. Let's make
yeah.
it. Let's
It's
get to the end.
it's tough.
So it's all about patience and understanding that you know at the end of it, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
We are rooting for a team. We've got that luxury. There's a lot worse things happen in the world than the Chargers losing, but I would like for the Chargers to not lose.
yeah,
That would be nice. So
yeah. I would say it's taught me to deal with tough loss, or something like that. Enjoy the ride, whatever, a bunch of different things. But it's been pretty tough.
yeah,
Um,
it's a
let's see.
fun kind of pain, I guess, but I would rather
Yeah,
it not be painful at all.
yeah. I mean, well, the highs of winning are very high. They're
Sure.
they're really
Yeah.
nice. Those are great. Um, and then I guess you have any message to the fans? Any message you got?
Man, we're all in this together. That's the
Yeah,
thing, man. Just everybody get in and mix it up with your opinions. You see something somebody else is saying and you disagree, man, that's fair game. Just be respectful of everybody because we're all working hard at this and a lot of you are working a lot harder than I am. I
mm,
don't dive into this nearly as much, and I think there's a place for all of it. There's a place for like you're talking about with your character. There's a place for these other podcasts that have been embraced in different ways. There's a place for analytics. I'm not a big analytics guy. I get on there and mix it up about analytics sometimes, but it's all of us, and just remember that we're all doing this for fun, and we're all just trying to take our own experience and add it into this to try to find the most fun we can and figure out a team that we all love.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all in some weird way, a big family. You got the all kinds of people out there, including myself. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we do want the same thing, and that's what brings us together. And that's how we've all crossed paths, really. So without
Yeah.
the Chargers, we would never even know each other, probably. So
And I love being at games, to watch the games. But one of the other things is to have met so many people that I have just encountered on Twitter, and just might have been talking to or whatever. I play in a fantasy league with a couple guys now,
mhm.
who I only met because we were Chargers fans, and then I met one of them, in person. All those things. So it's we really are. I mean, a family is the way to say it, and we're probably dysfunctional a little too often. So I'm hoping we can get past a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, amen. Cheers to that. I chug this little bubbly I got.
I left my drink behind.
Alrighty. Well, Darin, I appreciate you coming on here. Would be happy to have you on again anytime. Just whatever, an hour, 30 minutes, whatever. Shoot the shit or whatever. Yeah. Let's see what comments we got in here. Oh, we got a first timer, Johnny Bean. Hello from Santa Cruz, first time viewer here. Welcome.
Nice.
I love Santa Cruz. I go there quite often, actually. I like to go on the boardwalk and all that. Santa Cruz. Have you ever been to Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love Santa Cruz.
yeah. Santa Cruz is a fun city.
There's
Could
a
be.
guy from the Bay Area for you, another Chargers fan.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I
Well,
assume he's a Chargers fan if he's sitting and listening to us.
yeah. Well, even if he's not, hit that subscribe. Maybe not. Whatever. But yeah.
This other guy named Jim Harbaugh's burner, which
Oh
made me
yeah,
laugh much earlier in the
yeah,
podcast with his comments,
yeah. He said.
including calling you a Charger hero. So
I think I know this is. I think this is a friend of mine that I've met on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in, you guys, all two of you.
yeah,
But
exactly.
hey, it's this is a work of love, work of passion. Just love for the Chargers, love for the game of football, and people in general. It's always nice to talk with some cool people. So thank you again, Darin. Hope I'll see you on freaking the internet, wherever. I'll see you
Yep.
around virtually. And
Hopefully, we'll meet each other when you come to a game.
yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let Twitter know when I'm coming. I'll let you know which game I choose to come. So, alrighty, man. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thanks, Gabe.
Yep. Thank you, guys.